All right, welcome to the construct. It is different type of video today. Um, I want to be a little bit more consistent on my channel, so today I'm going to be doing a reaction to Steven Crowder's return back to Change My Mind, and the topic seems to be the left is violent. So I really respect Steven Crowder for doing this, and this is kind of his way of honoring Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, and I think this will be fun. It'll be different. I haven't done a reaction video in years on this channel, so I definitely want to give my perspective, take, see what points he has, and I know that he is kind of was the forefront of like these type of street debates. Obviously, Charlie Kirk, Myron Gaines, and Sneeko kind of did it a little bit too. So let's get started. Let's not waste any time. Thank you guys so much for joining the channel. Interviews are a little bit on hold right now. Still trying to find guests, but in the meantime, let's try to create content, be consistent, and grow the channel regardless. This is a channel where everyone is welcome to give their opinions, and we're able to communicate on a nice, respectful way.
We're here, and I don't think you would argue that this is unnecessary. The assassination in cold blood is an act of terrorism of Charlie Kirk.
Let me just check. Maybe I should put this at full screen so you don't see my recommended, which you guys already kind of see already anyway. So I guess that doesn't really matter.
Is that political violence? You seem so confident on the Hortmans, but not Charlie Kirk.
I would I was just thinking about your question.
If that doesn't constitute political violence that could be answered in the affirmative immediately, of course, what would?
Hey YouTube, what you're about to watch is a new segment we call Change My Mind. Welcome back to Change My Mind. It's been a while. This is the place where we rationalize, we reason our positions on controversial topics. When I created Change My Mind in 2017, I had one goal in mind, and that was to shine a light on the institutions that had failed Americans. Often students propagandized by the educational system, as well as legacy media.
Mr. Trump's once again defending comments he made about the white supremacists and neo-Nazis.
There were very fine people on both sides.
The president's statement that both sides are responsible for the violence in Charlottesville.
It was designed to bring genuine dialogue to what had become an impenetrable echo chamber dominated by progressive professors, administrators, student leadership, along with the complicit media and big tech establishment. To put it simply, the kind of dialogue that evaded all of cable news.
I know you said that. 150 police officers got hurt.
You said I was being hyperbolic. Let me respond. I'm not. You being a white man as an insult?
That just shows you the ridiculousness of all of this.
And so, nearly a decade later, with billions of plays, countless discussions, inspired student iterations, one meme of the year, and yes, even a few changed minds later,
You somewhat changed your mind.
Change My Mind had grown far bigger than I ever initially anticipated. And with that came pushback, controversy, increasing hostility, and yes, straight up violence.
Nope.
You piece of living garbage ass dumpster fire.
It got to the point where security became a serious issue. And so I pulled back. Now, given recent events, however, I felt led, compelled even, to bring it back. Voices like ours, and I mean ours, can't be silenced. And I say this to you watching on the left, made me do this. I didn't necessarily want to, and everyone told me that this, in today's climate, could not be done unless...
And this is the clip I saw on X actually, and I actually, when I saw this yesterday or the day before, when he announced out of nowhere that he was going to be doing his Change My Mind debate, table of debates again, I actually went and replied and I said, great job, you started this thing, and I'm, happy that you are not going to let your voice or people on the right's voices be shunned down and stayed quiet because of what happened with Charlie Kirk. And I respect that he got top level. You see they blurred out the faces of all the security men, a bulletproof vest, and they actually have bulletproof windows as well, just to make sure there's extra caution. So anyone who's doing these type of things, be safe out there, because I know it's not easy. It's not you just Charlie Kirk's death, his assassination was a attack on free speech, and for people who have a voice, whether it's good, bad, everything is just everyone is entitled to their opinion and to share the voice and share their ideals. So shout out to, Stephen Crowder for doing this.
I took unbelievable precautions unless it was absolutely kept a secret until mere hours before the event.
Oh, and also FYI, this is my first time watching his. I've seen a couple clips of Stephen Crowder. I've watched more Charlie Kirk's stuff and Myron Gaines' debates before, but I haven't watched any of his stuff. But and also, am I the one who thinks that he looks like Billy Eichner, that one actor that is gay? He was in Beauty, no, not Beauty and the Beast. He was Timon in the Lion King remake or live action, whatever you want to call it. He looks just like him.
Event
Chris.
as a pop-up unless I literally brought an army with me and bulletproofed the entire radius, which is exactly what we did. And so today, for the first time in many years, Change My Mind returns, and back to one of the places where it all began, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Today's subject is plain and simple. The left is violent. Will anybody be able to change my mind?
Thank you, Christina, for sitting down.
One more time.
Stephen.
Yes. Okay.
So I'll take that. I mean, you're not maybe super familiar with what we do with these this series. Let me just kind of clarify what it is. First, I'll tell you what it's not.
Let me just double check to make sure that looks like it's still good in sync. Cool.
It's not gotcha. It's not clickbait. This is not meant to be, or it won't be used to clip into some kind of a dunk or something to just foment people espousing the same rhetoric on one side. It will be uploaded contextually in its entirety, where hopefully we have a productive discussion.
Yes.
We rationalize our positions, reason them on controversial topics. Before I get to the premise of today, could you do me a favor just so we can find some common ground?
Yeah.
This is what's being cited right now quite a bit. Just the definition of political violence. I want to make sure we both agree on it.
Political violence are criminal complaints, indictments, and court records looking for crimes that seek a socio-political change or to communicate to outside audience.
And I'll summarize it. That's the technical description from the source cited.
Yeah.
It's violence as a tool being used toward a political end. In other words, just because you vote Democrat or because you vote Republican, if you accidentally hit someone with your car and commit manslaughter, that's not political violence. If you vote Democrat, but let's say you go out and run someone over because of their politics, that would be political. Do we agree?
Exactly. And I'm so glad he's doing this. Just making sure everyone understands exactly what the topic of hand, and that they're not going to be arguing over semantics, over things that are, because a lot of people, one of the biggest things people have an issue is just being able to communicate with each other and understand each other. And a lot of times people don't even know the use of the actual words being used in the debate or discussion. And by that, it just turns things left. No pun intended, but turn things into people can get off course by doing that. So very smart, and very respectful doing it that way.
Agree on that?
I think I can agree with you on that.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So the premise today is that particularly today in 2025, by and large,
the left,
the political violence is coming from the left. It's not
the majority
with that on the right. That's the reason for the security that you see today that's very necessary. And it's a problem that's reaching a boiling point that may not be sustainable. If you disagree with me, you're welcome to change my mind.
I don't know if I can change your mind, because here's the thing. When I see the sign that says the left is violent, and you talked about how it's not proportional, and I would love to see your statistics about that, because we could make the same statement about the right very easily, right? Like we could say that was it just a month or two ago that the Democratic lawmakers were shot, and that was like, all right. I think our bigger problem is that the
You're talking about the Hortmans in Minnesota, right?
Right, yeah, because she was a senator and her husband was also killed, and that was done by the right, whatever. But
it wasn't. But continue.
Oh, that wasn't a
No.
It wasn't a conservative or.
No, that's why I used the example that I did. The person, Vance Bolter, who committed it, specifically said it had nothing to do with politics, and he left a letter reasoning it, saying that Tim Walz had ordered him to carry a hit out on people. So he was very clear that it wasn't in the name of politics. That's someone who happened to be, on some issues, Republican, on some issues, Democrat. And he was appointed by a Tim Walz administration. So that was not done in the name of political violence. He said Tim Walz ordered him to assassinate somebody who was out of his mind. But I'd like you to continue with the example.
Sure. And let's say, okay, so he wasn't right. That's fine.
No, it wasn't political violence.
Wasn't political. Oh, it didn't count as political violence.
Based on the definition you agreed to, right?
Yeah.
Yes, this is where he's gonna get them in this debate. He's gonna make sure that they align with it. They don't go off course. We're gonna make sure that you stay on course with the definition that you have agreed to. Because if you didn't agree with it, then we could obviously readjust it. But you already made the decision that this is based off of political violence, the definition they've established. This is how we're gonna base the argument off of. That's it. So very smart. Again, shout out to Stephen.
And I think a lot of it too is there's so many things happening. It's actually really hard to get all the facts about everything.
Sure.
And our media is when they make these statements or they start to postulate about an event, and it will become political before we've even fully fleshed everything out. Like.
Could you give me an example?
Well, like the shooting that happened at the church yesterday. I haven't seen enough. I don't know. Have you seen any media on it yet? I'm curious to know what the media is saying
quite a bit
about it, and I want to know how are they characterizing it?
Yeah, the media.
So with regard to the church, I think she's talking about the one that happened was it Michigan? The Mormon church. It was a Army veteran. There's mixed things about it. They don't really know the full details about it, but someone said that they saw the guy. He was anti-Trump, or I think it was weird because there's multiple pictures, but it's not him, saying that he wore a Trump shirt, so he was right, regardless of whether he's right or left. I would say that's an example of a political violence, obviously, because one, he killed people, and obviously, because against a certain religion, and that in itself is unacceptable. So, that again, just because that you can name exceptions, there are multiple, and I know this is going to be a long video, but there are multiple scenarios that we've seen with Antifa, Black Lives Matter, as well as the people that were in the beginning of the year, they were bombing the Teslas against Elon Musk. That was an act of political. It wasn't. Remember the Tesla that was in front of the Trump Tower? That was done on purpose. It's because they weren't obviously happy with who won the election, and they just can't use logic, and they have to use their emotions. Notice how Charlie Kirk's, since his assassination, there's been no political violence, no riots, no even protesting of any kind at all that I can be aware of. Just people just uniting and mourning and trying to pay their respects. But it's mostly, again, most of the time, it's the people on the left that are conducting violence, and I'm pretty sure it was leftist people that were doing the ICE raid riots as well in California. And Gavin Newsom, a left, corrupt Democrat, allowed it to happen, and he's most likely going to be the person that's going to be running for president in 2028. And I hope he, when JD Vance beats him or whoever. It's gonna be very fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Isn't characterizing, I will say this, even on the left and the right, they're not really characterizing that as political violence.
Okay.
Because it was a guy who really seemed to harbor ill will toward the Mormon church.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty hard to categorize it as political violence when the targets were largely conservative and the man who carried out the action seems like he might be a Republican. But I think we could pick a more clear example, a multitude of them. The reason we're here, and I don't think he would argue that this is unnecessary.
So he wouldn't classify it. Wait, did you say he didn't classify that as political violence? Well, I guess in his definition, right, it didn't really align with like religion.
And the man who carried out the action seems like he might be a Republican. But I think we could pick a more clear example of political violence. Media, quite a bit.
About it. And I want to know how are they characterizing it?
Yeah, the media isn't characterizing, I will say this, even on the left and the right, they're not really characterizing that as political violence.
Okay.
because it was a guy who really seemed to harbor ill will toward the Mormon church. So it's pretty hard to categorize it as political violence when the targets were largely conservative and the man who carried out...
Right, because you could be liberal. Okay, I see what he means, because they don't really know, because, again, you could be Christian on the left or the right. Not all people that are conservative are Christian, and not everyone that's on the left aren't Christian. So it's like, I can see what he means by that.
The action seems like he might be Republican. But I think we could pick a more clear example, a multitude of them. The reason we're here, and I don't think you would argue that this is unnecessary, the assassination in cold blood is an act of terrorism of Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Is that political violence?
The fact that she has to question it and think about it is
You
crazy.
seem so confident on the Hortmans, but not Charlie Kirk.
I would say, I was just thinking about your question. Yeah, I mean, probably because he was like Turning Point USA is a conservative organization, right? That's meant to try and rally young conservatives and be involved. And so, yeah, I would probably agree that his death was political, or his murder, assassination was politically violent. But I guess I just have a hard time reconciling that with, we can say that the senator and her husband being killed wasn't political, but
I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why. Because the express motive of the terrorist who assassinated Charlie Kirk was politics. He killed him because he said he's one of those hateful conservative right-wingers.
Mm-hmm.
The rhetoric that he espoused, the reason that he killed Charlie Kirk, was to take out someone of his political persuasion and make others of his political persuasion afraid to express their opinions. The man who assassinated, which I roundly condemn, Vance Bolter, the Hortmans, did not do it as a means to a political end. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. He is not an elected official, solely because of his political perspective as a method to instill terror in the populace.
yeah.
How do I know? Because a person said it was political violence.
Okay, what if we just don't even have enough information though? Like, what if it is politically motivated and we just don't have enough to know about it yet?
In that case, we do.
Okay, but like, regardless if you don't have enough motivation to know if it's political violence or not, she's not doing a good job of convincing that like the left is like violent. Like, it doesn't like there's not enough evidence to persuade, I think, anyone on the left or the right that the people on the left are more violent motivated, while the people on the right are more people who are open. Like, look at Charlie Kirk. I mean, he invited people who didn't always agree with his opinions. He talked with Cenk. He talked with Dave Smith. He brought on Tucker Carlson. Candace, obviously. He brought up Turning Point with her. So, again, it's just like, I don't think, I mean, I get it, I'm not taking these people seriously to actually give a good, valid criticism and point, but yeah, Stephen did his research, obviously.
Well, not in this particular instance, but I just mean like with the Hortons you mentioned.
Okay, well, let's separate the gray area.
Okay.
Right? That's why I kind of start with the example. Just because you, I would assume, let's say, vote Democrat or Republican, just because you commit a crime doesn't make it political violence. I mean, if we did that, we'd have 90% of the crime being committed on behalf of the Democrat Party, because most people in inner cities vote Democrat. I don't consider that to be political violence. People have political beliefs, and people commit violence. Sometimes they rob a store because they want money. People who commit political violence do so specifically to instill fear in political opposition. They specifically commit violence as a means to a political end.
Okay.
And when we categorize it that way, it's overwhelmingly coming from the left. We do have the sources here that we make this available, so you can take the QR code. So what would make you, because you seem very confident that the Hortmans was political.
Hold on, let me scan that QR code, because it's appeared a couple times. I want to make sure that I get it, just in case. I'm sure these are like really good resources for me. Oops. There we are. Let me see what it says here. Left is violent. That's so cool. Studies claiming more political violence from the right. The prosecution project is to region economist, TPP author Michael Santifa, and to be arrested while protesting Trump. This is good. These are good. I'm gonna save this so I could do my own research on it too. I just love this concept because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this too is because you guys, I would recommend scanning the QR code too because it goes to uh Crowder's website and it gives up points on these things. Vance Boulders, Trump pro life stuff. Yeah, he was just talking about the Mike Waltz situation too on the Minnesota. The shooting was a horrible event. It is not comparable to the murder. Yeah, because this is what it says here. Truth. While the shooting of Republican Melissa Hortman and her husband was a horrible event, it is not comparable at all. Murderer Vance Bolter specifically said his actions were not inspired by Trump or pro-life stuff. He left a letter claiming he was part of a Tim Walz directed government hit, and sourced by the New York Post and Minnesota Star Tribune, and it was roundly condemned by those on the right as violence. No, Senator Mike Lee's comments on X NBC are not comparable to what we saw with Charlie Kirk. Senator Mike Lee quotes, "Nightmare on Wall Street. This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way. These hateful attacks have no place in Utah, Minnesota." So they condemned it. Yeah. So people on the right are always going to be able to call it what it is and say violence is never the answer. While people on the left, the majority of them are willing to excuse him. It's like, oh, he had to come. And I mean, if he's going to put himself out there and say these things, then it's bound to happen. Like idiots saying those type of things. The right, again, people on the left, I notice that they love to make up excuses and be like, well, I mean, if he said all that stuff, I mean, what do you expect to happen? Like they always come up with that as if it justifies that the violence in itself is like excusable. Like it's not at all.
Political violence, and then it's nuanced with Charlie Kirk. Why?
Oh, I didn't say it was nuanced at all with Charlie Kirk. I agreed with you after considering your question that it was a political.
If that doesn't constitute political violence that could be answered in the affirmative immediately, of course, what would? Like, what would be required to say, oh, this is clearly an act of political violence or political terrorism, if not Charlie Kirk?
I agreed that it was political violence, so I'm not sure where this question is coming from.
Well, I'm saying because you came in and pointed to an example that would be in the gray area, the Hortmans, and took a long time to agree with that premise of Charlie Kirk. And so what if we don't know enough information? So Charlie Kirk would be very clear left-wing political violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Great.
Yes.
So there are more examples of that coming from the left than the right. That's the
right.
premise, yes.
Okay. So you're saying clear examples of political violence. I
Yes.
hear you using clear.
Violence carried out as a means to a political end.
Exactly.
So there's clear information data that shows us that the left is violent or is more violent than the right.
No.
Yes.
No. Well, I mean, yes, but it's about the the examples of the political violence. Each one, for example, when Trump got no, not when Trump got shot. Who was it? That killer. Luigi Mangione. Like the bullet casings had the line from for what was it? But it was about like obviously um the health insurance wave. Basically, he didn't kill him because of his right wing. It was more so about his the mind you, the CEO of what was it called, Mutual Healthcare, whatever. He obviously was corrupt and he used AI to deny a lot of people's claims in the insurance business, and his attack was definitely politically motivated because he had casings on it. He said certain things. Remember when they were escorting him out of the courtroom? He was yelling certain things, and his ideology was definitely motivated by um, a difference of ideology that he feels that the whole corporate America health system, being corrupt, and which it is, but he didn't go about it the right way. So it was motivated by his left-wing ideology to think that violence was the answer in order to stop it. He was basically trying to be like Robin Hood. And people on the left, which is why it's so sad, you see people on the left cheering and applauding him and cheering when he was not found guilty of certain things when he was in the courtroom a few weeks ago. People in the courtroom were cheering. All the women were cheering for him, and because he's handsome and things like that. No, I'm not, I don't understand that. People on the left are really weird, but that's another example of political violence from the left, and there's evidence of it because the bullet casings, um, and things on his social media and how he conducted himself for his manifesto that still hasn't come out yet, by the way. But and things that they revealed about him definitely was giving political violence. It's not like he killed him because he hates him as a person. It was more of the whole concept of like the whole healthcare system. And obviously, I think this was a little bit after Trump was elected as well. So yeah,
Not only in crime statistics, but also in the polling after Charlie Kirk's death. Now, I believe that you're discussing this in good faith, and I would assume that you roundly condemn political violence of all stripes.
Of course.
So do I. Just to be clear, I think we both.
let me just make sure I'm still recording. Cool. Just making sure.
Sorry. That's why we're sitting at a table having a conversation.
Right, right.
Do you identify as more liberal or conservative?
I like to think I'm moderate because I hold some conservative views and some liberal views.
Okay.
And I wish we could have a little bit more moderation in our country.
Like sitting down and having discussions.
Exactly. Like
Okay.
things
Okay.
like this.
Because we get killed for it anyway.
Right.
And
Yeah.
only the right. Only the right gets killed for this anyway. You're seeing the one that got through. The reason I stopped doing this for years is because every single time out was a violent attack. Sometimes it was a rock. Sometimes it was a milkshake, could be concrete, acid, chocolate, vanilla. I don't know. Doxing, fire bombings, Molotov cocktail.
Yo, Steven Crowder is he's taking this really seriously. He's not playing around. He's being respectful, but he's truly trying to like let people know, like, listen. And I think how long was the time gap between the last time he did this? And Charlie Kirk wasn't really. There's been a couple times where people threw water at him and things like that. Myron, I think he's been attacked a couple times, but nothing crazy attacks. And people cursed him out, things like that. But shout out to Steven because that's because the thing is, like, Charlie Kirk could have been any one of us doing these type of like contents, videos, TikToks, whatever. People could just kill you like that. And he walked like the president. He had like top level security, and he still got assassinated. That's insane. It's crazy.
Maya Angelou spoke at SMU only a few years before my first time here. Didn't need this kind of security. And you can see it if you observe your speakers here. And I'll tell you why that is. If you look at the polls post-assassination of Charlie.
Also, I don't mean to interrupt, but there is no one on the left that is doing debates like this, that's actually communicating with people from both sides. If there is, let me know in the comments down below. But I don't see anyone on the left, because all people on the left just throw ad hominem attacks, and they just conduct things in a way where they just use their emotions, but when it comes to confrontation, they back out. They don't want to talk about certain things because they just rather, attack you and your character and act like you're evil rather than confront you, communicate with you, understand your point of view, things of that nature. So it's incredible.
Charlie Kirk, and you label yourself as a moderate. Those who identify as liberal support political violence at a ratio of 6-1 to conservatives. The YouGov poll said, is political violence acceptable? 77% of conservatives said not at all. Only 38% of those on the left said not at all. 62% of those on the left said somewhat to completely acceptable. We see the same stats after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We see the same stats after the fire bombings of the Tesla dealership. And we see the same stats on the opposite side, those on the right roundly condemning political violence. The lowest you'll find is 72. You usually find it in the high 80s. You will not find a number that breaks half on the left.
Okay, you mentioned Donald Trump. Can we jump to that for just a minute?
Donald Trump, sure. I assumed we would.
Well, because I thought that guy was a registered Republican, and then he
Which guy?
donated the guy who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I'm really terrible at names.
Oh, Crooks.
Yeah, that he was a registered Republican. So would you consider him a act of violence on the left or on the right?
I would consider the attempted assassination of a presidential nominee political violence, yes.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, there are a lot of people on the right who don't like Donald Trump.
Yes, I do know a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Political violence isn't just Republican, Democrat. That's why I say left versus right.
Okay.
Those on the right are more routinely targets, and it's very blatant. People can say he was a registered Republican. That doesn't change the fact that it was an act of political violence carried out against Donald Trump, who's a conservative.
Yes.
Republican, whatever term you want to use.
Well, I guess, but if the argument is the left is violent, and I'm just thinking about this guy's, political background from the person. I hear what you're saying, that the right is targeted more often.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Here's the thing. The topic is the left is violent, right? But like the whole concept is to make sure that we establish, yes, are there people on the right that conduct acts of violence? Yes, of course, both sides. But the whole point is that the majority of the time, it's always the left that wants to conduct violence onto people on the right, whether Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, um, even to other people who most conservatives are just canceled on YouTube. They probably hopefully now the whole free speech thing that's going to allow certain content creators to come back. Like Nick Fuentes got an intruder that tried to kill him as well, and he stayed calm. I saw that stream, but they get demonetized, so they get canceled, they get assassination attempts. Look, Andrew Tate as well. He had an intruder come into his house and pretended to be a worker and came in with a knife, and luckily he didn't get far. But like Candace Owens, I'm sure she gets like death threats all the time, and it's not safe for anyone. Like Ben Shapiro is one of the biggest people I know for a fact. He has to get death threats. I know it. It's sad. It's sad, and people at the left, I don't know. Like I feel like obviously they have to get some type of like publicity and people who harass them, but it's like I'm sure they get threats. I'm not disagreeing. I'm sure they do, right? But most of the time, like it's conducted by people on the left that do it to people on the right, and it's like a no-brainer. The majority of the time, it is Black Lives Matter, Antifa, things like that are conducting these acts of violence within the country. The majority of it, and you can't use the exceptions like the ones they just gave about the guy that tried to assassinate Trump, the second guy, Crooks, or is it the first guy? I forget the name too. Regardless, like okay, like that's one out of like 100 like things that happens in the country. It's crazy.
We're the victims of political violence.
More often, and
much more.
So, would you classify?
Sorry, let me go back.
Often and
much
targeted more often.
Yeah, we're the victims of political violence.
More often and
much more.
So, would you classify that specific incident as violence of the right or of the left?
Well, the target is the right. The target was Donald Trump. So the net result is the same. We are often the targets of violence.
Yeah, but the left,
including someone who may be a moderate Republican. Yeah, the left is still overwhelmingly violent. And I point to those polls that you can peruse from YouGov, from Reuters, not bastions of conservatism, along with the rhetoric since then. Here's the one thing that you can't point me to. And we can go through the stats. And I know you've probably heard from those on the left that actually there's more right-wing political violence. They're often circulating that right now. I can disabuse you of that notion relatively quickly. I think we'd find common ground there. You still can't point me to an example that is comparable on the right of Charlie Kirk, someone who was not an elected official, a public figure who was really notable for nothing more than expressing his opinion and having conversations, who was assassinated in cold blood and then gleefully celebrated thereafter from the left. Mm-hmm. And I hope that as someone who's moderate, you understand why that's so concerning to us on the right. When we host vigils and memorials, and the left is so completely fearless of their own consequences that they kill one of ours and show up to the memorials and vigils and desecrate and vandalize. Mm-hmm. That is the information that creates the powder keg.
Yeah, yeah.
The only off-ramp would have been, hey, we kept saying that people like Charlie Kirk, by the way, he was much more moderate than I am. I am Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun compared to Charlie Kirk, but I will have conversations with anyone. I just want to be very clear. So I know that plenty of people would gleefully celebrate my death, my murder, for doing this exact same thing. The only off-ramp would have been the left saying, look, we've called Donald Trump and his voters and Charlie Kirk and Steven Crowder and whoever on the right, Tucker Carlson, take your pick, Sargon of Akkad, everyone. Ben Shapiro, we've called them fascists. We've called them Nazis. We've said that they want to commit a genocide because they don't want to transition children. We've called them racist because they support the police in an era of defund the police. And my God, people out there actually believe it. It's incumbent upon us to tone this down and say, you know what? They're not fascist. We made these people believe that this guy would never relinquish the reins of power. How do you deal with fascists? You can't do it at a ballot box. If I believe that there was an actual government right now that was executing blacks, as the left has said about the police force, if I believed that there was a leftist government that was actually fascist, that would jail any and all political dissidents, if I believed that the left was committing a genocide against white conservative Christian men, and if I believed that that administration would never host a democratic election again, I'd be out in the streets with a gun. You have a huge portion of Democrats who believe that about Donald Trump and his voters.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you saying that people believe that. Absolutely.
That's very different between the right and the left, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know, Stephen. It feels like it's so polarized right now. It's even hard to find common ground on anything. You know, like I was just thinking about the sign, and it's that the left is violent.
Yes.
Then when I sit down, it's actually the left is politically violent, and so it's kind of it's a modifier, right? We're modifying our conversation a little bit, and so.
Well,
No, what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, he addressed the definitions in the beginning of the video. So again, this is serious stuff. This is just take the L. Acknowledge the facts. People on the right are targeted and attacked, and way more likely to put on security and use extra caution to just get out their house, mind you, just for stating their opinions on certain things. The left, that's why the left doesn't get enough threats like that. I'm sure people like Gavin Newsom and AOC probably get their moments too, but for the most part, people on the left don't get that many threats in general. I feel because the left is the side of accepting and embracing everyone of all, if whether you're gay, straight, lesbian, trans, whatever. If you're Muslim, if you're a Christian, diversity, equal opportunity, feminism, everything. It's the party of acceptance. But when you stand for everything, you stand for nothing at the same time. There has to be boundaries, and people on the right have certain values and standards and morals that they will not go against. And I think that's something that is respectable and more honorable, because when you stand for something, you won't fall for just anything. And that's why I appreciate the right.
Is matching the intensity and the rhetoric of the left. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have said the right is violent. The political right is violent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing what they are unwilling to do, which is sit down and have a conversation.
Exactly.
I don't believe it's nuanced. I believe there's black and white, pretty clear cut, good and evil in this one. I believe there's pretty black and white, clear cut who's responsible for the political violence. But I will discuss it with anybody. So did Charlie Kirk. And they kill us anyway.
Exactly.
So I'm matching their rhetoric that I can fit on a sign, but I'm doing the work that the left is not willing to do and having a conversation. But I don't know where we go from if we have these conversations.
And no one on the left is doing these things either.
In, we get assassinated. The left doesn't fear that.
I would disagree, though. I think the left does.
Okay, but then who on the left is doing this? Who on the left is actually going out, debating people in the streets, bringing open conversations without having, ad hominem attacks and trying to actually create conversation with people? You notice like Joe Rogan, he has the number one podcast in the world. I'm just trying to think of like people on the left that like invite. Like I remember even the talk show hosts like Legacy, like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. It's rare when you ever see anyone that's like right wing on the other side that comes on their show. And that's why I respect someone like Stephen A. Smith. That because the best content is on YouTube. Let's be honest here. Like anyone who watches legacy media anymore, like come on, like everything on Fox News, everything it's already on YouTube. or X. So it's like it's pointless, and the legacy media lies as well. But Stephen A. Smith, he invites people like Shapiro, and then he invites Candace Owens, but he also invites people on the left, such as what's his name, Van Jones. He invites Megyn Kelly. He invites Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum. He would invite what's his name, Sean Hannity, I think is his name. People, regardless, like people left, right, Magic Johnson can talk to anyone, and that's a platform that I would want to have on my channel as well. I want to invite people of all forms of life, of all religions, all races, everyone to come here, have an open discussion. And Stephen Crowder's right. The people on the right, the only people who've been doing these type of things are people on the right. You know, Sneeko, Stephen Crowder, Charlie Kirk, rest in peace, Myron Gaines. Because it's dialogue is like the best form of communicating to each other and be able to understand each other respectfully, instead of just. And shout out to this woman for at least not throwing attacks at him yet, or hopefully ever, because that's not how you solve issues.
Have their own fears about it. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but I think there's a lot of fear out there. It's just not. It's just different.
The leftist speakers on this campus don't need the same kind of security. They don't.
I'll take note of that. I mean, I've been a student here for 2 years, and I hadn't even paid that much attention. I don't go to a whole lot of events, but I'll take note of that and see what I notice. So.
Well, let me ask you this. Assuming that I'm not lying to you, right, about these polls, and this is one thing we always, every show that I do, I'm largely a comedian, by the way. I'm an unwilling participant in this. I want to be telling dick jokes in a comedy club.
I do stand-up comedy too, actually.
Oh, good. Okay. Do you do some around here?
I do.
You might know my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. He does a lot of stand-up in Dallas right now. He has a show coming up.
Cool.
Well, let me know. Maybe I'll be able to look it up, and I can't come out and see a show unless I come out with security, but I'd like to see your material. That's actually even another example. A man who works on my show, a man named Josh Firestein, he was a booker for a comedy, a franchise of comedy clubs. When I performed at the Spokane Comedy Club, it was the first time they ever needed metal detectors and security. He'd been a booker there for many, many years. You had actual registered communists do comedy there. He was shocked and he was ready to hate me. He works for me now because he saw why it was necessary. When you perform on stage, do you need metal detectors? Do you need armed security? I have since I was 19 years old doing comedy in clubs.
Wow.
And I don't think I've said anything that necessitates that.
Oh, George was letting me know. I have class at 2.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this then?
Oh, I mean, I think we need to have more civil discourse. I think.
Can't do that. We get shot.
Well, we can. We're doing it right now. Let's
With
not
a brigade.
be so
With security.
pessimistic. But Stephen, come on, we have to change our attitudes about it. We can't constantly.
No, because every time we've allowed it to happen, we get shot. Like we've kept it cordial. Now we have to bring in security, bulletproof, mirrors, shields, and that's just how it is. Like being nice is not gonna solve it anymore. I've just said this for a long time. Like guns don't kill people. People kill people. We have a mental health crisis in the United States, and it's only getting worse. Like there was a shooting after the church shooting. There was another one that happened recently, and there was one in North Carolina as well. Like it's everywhere. It's sad, man. It's sad.
Fixate on the negative stuff. I know it's important and it matters, but we can do it. And just as
I can do it with $250,000 of security. Most people don't have that.
Most people don't have that. And you talk about like fearing for your life.
Yeah.
I am a female pastor in Deep East, Texas. So on Sunday morning, I wait for that time when someone doesn't like what I said from the pulpit and comes up to me. So I too live with a fear. But it's different for me. And,
do you have metal detectors and armed security?
We can't afford that at my church. We have an old person that sits up the front and says hi and tries to intervene in a way that would be appropriate of a Christian. We thought about bringing security to the church. We talked about it.
We literally can't have these discussions on our side unless we have it.
We have security.
It's a necessity.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I think that's really unfortunate that it's gotten so bad. The state of our country is so bad that we can't even talk to each other without one side or the other having to provide ridiculous amounts of safety and security that maybe aren't even guaranteed.
No, yeah, it's true.
Right?
And I agree with you. It is terrible that we've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
it is terrible that it's exclusively incumbent upon one side to have these types of measures in place. Let me ask you this, because again, I think that we both abhor political violence. Do you think that maybe when one side is being hunted, let's make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was hunted. When people showed up to my house to try and kill me, I was being hunted, right? Any conservative here is one viral tweet, one effective video away from being hunted.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we think that when that happens and we peacefully mourn the loss of one of our peaceful leaders, and we are still approached with violence at memorials and at vigils with desecration, do you think that maybe the both sidesing it, saying it comes from both sides, is actually more harmful than productive?
Yeah.
Because it lets the side that's responsible for it off the hook, the clear
Yes.
aggressor.
Exactly. And they make it excusable, like, oh, like that, like you got to watch what you say, otherwise, like, what do you expect to happen if you're going to be saying racist things? What do you expect to happen if you're going to be talking about this and that? Like, and then people on the left, what they love to do is clip what's it called, clip farming, or they just like to make things um put clips out of context together to make the other side look evil, when clearly they they do a lot of things to manipulate people to try to see their point of view, not using actual, like, good dialogue and good conversation together. So the fact that the left refuses to acknowledge this issue in America is also, I completely agree. It's doing more harm because it's not acknowledging. It's because the thing is, what's more productive? Someone that, if you know you have an issue with something, right? Let's just say you have I don't know, a drinking problem. Are you, like, two things are going to happen? Either you continue doing the same things and lead yourself down a path of destruction, or you could reflect, see the root of the problem, see that there is a problem, accept it, and then make a change. That's what the left needs to do. They need to, like, get their minds out of their emotions, get out of this sad, one-sided, just destructive path of emotions, and just, like, the left, they're so demonic. It's so crazy to me. Like, Jimmy Kimmel legit cannot stop talking about Trump. Like, it's kind of annoying at this point, and that's why I stopped watching his show, because it's, like, so biased. And when you go on a realms of biasness, you're making other people feel like, damn, I'm not accepted. And the whole point of, like, media in general, I think, is to be able to have a overall audience, not to just be one-sided. So yeah, I agree. I kind of see that. I could see his point.
I think it's more harmful to say that it's both sides.
Do you think it would be more helpful to call the left out and say, hey,
She says she thinks it would be more harmful to not acknowledge it's both, when the majority of it is on the left? It's crazy.
you guys have been saying fascist, you guys,
Like, he legit just, like, people on the left don't need security like that. And also, oh, I forgot. Thank God I remember this too. You guys see what happened with Ice Cube? For those who don't know, Ice Cube got his car raided by Antifa, thinking that his car was a ICE raid car. That in itself should show you how corrupt the people on the left are. That they're right. They think that, again, violence is the only answer to them, because they know they cannot win with the conversations and discussions, and their points are, they have no points, so they can't win a simple argument against someone like Charlie Kirk. So what are they gonna do? Conduct violence. And Ice Cube didn't. Do you think Ice Cube deserved that? Like, no, of course not.
have been saying Nazi, you guys have been saying genocide, sexist, and people believe it. And we're seeing political violence now that we both hate. Do you think that calling them out aggressively, rhetorically, might be more productive than saying, well, I guess it happens on both sides right now?
No, I don't, because it kind of reminds me of therapy, where
Therapy is fake, by the way.
it's not necessarily helpful to point the finger in ways that are counterproductive. Not that
What? It's not fair to point the finger. It's not about pointing the finger. It's about acknowledging it. it's about accepting that yes, we are the side that conducts the most violence. We should really reflect, but people just don't like to reflect. This is a human trait most humans have. They are scared to look within themselves to see the ugly truth, and it's sad. It's really sad,
I'm
man.
not opposed to holding people accountable because that's a different thing.
No, I understand.
So,
Maybe
yeah.
let me ask you then this way, where you say pointing fingers. What is the reason that we record crime statistics?
I don't know.
Bruh, are you serious right now? What is the? You don't know the reason why we record crime statistics. Maybe so we can see a common pattern, trend, to see which races are cutting the most, which areas, which percentage. Like I don't. Let me think. Like, come on now. What do you mean you don't know? That's why I love people like Fresh and Fit and Andrew Che and Charlie Kirk. They actually use statistics to back up their actual arguments because these statistics um are actual facts and you cannot deny the truth. If someone says, "How do you know black people conduct most of the violence?" I'm like, well, they are. I forget what the percentage. Like 12% of the population is black people, but they conduct 50% of the violent crimes. So what does it say? What does that say? Um, I mean, I've read. I don't know if that's correct. I'm just like that's what my memory is, but that's an example, of like the majority. I'm sure the majority of the immigrants that come in here illegally are probably from uh Venezuela and Mexico, obviously, because it's right there. Because no one from Panama is going to be really crossing from Panama over to America. Like that don't make any sense.
Would you agree?
Not to say that there probably are. I'm just saying that like the majority is most likely Mexicans and Venezuelans, and for good reasons because I understand that those countries are very corrupt and have horrible leaders and horrible. Yeah, the cartel owns them.
With the
Mexico.
fundamental premise that its primary purpose is risk assessment in determining who's most likely to be victimized. For example, and I hear this from the left, transgender or gay sex workers are more likely to be targets of violence than heterosexual sex workers, right? Those studies have come out. And by the way, those seem to be true. So we go, okay, these people are more at risk. The reason for crime statistics is to assess where the risk exists. Otherwise, it serves no purpose.
Okay.
Would we agree with that?
Fair.
Okay.
Sure. I'll trust your information on this.
Well, it's not information. It's just the reason. This is the why. Why else would we have crime statistics? Why would we record them? There's no reason. Just, okay, crime was committed. There's nothing we can do about it now.
Exactly.
I'll just have a history. I mean, is another potential reason, but sure.
What's the value in a history?
But history is so important, Stephen. Come on.
In what?
History.
Well, I would agree with you. History is important because if we don't learn from the lessons of the past, then how are we gonna? Because again, for example, if you look back at the times before Black Lives Matter, like when black couples or even just traditional marriages, compared to how they were, the divorce rate back then compared to how it is now is completely different. History, we need to understand what has changed. Social media, feminism, giving women the right to vote. Again, like pop culture, like the changes and the government being involved in marriages, all these things have been a big effect. So it's important to understand history. What the crimes have been committed in the past, as it skyrocketed recently, like those are all things that are important with the history as well. So, but at the same time, it is also important to conduct the studies to see what are the risk percentages between each crimes and what has been conducted on both acts of violence, whether it's art, arson, car theft, murder, assassinations, rape, all these things. It's important to know why, how much of it is happening, and also the context of it, because I know that there's certain people that, for the further study, someone that says 1 out of every 5 or 10 women gets raped, which I don't believe that's to be true. I have met some women that have been, assaulted before, but that's There's some theories about that. I don't know. Because some women, let's be honest, there's some women that be lying and just have a bad one night stand. And they want to say that was, grape or whatever. But besides the point. Let's continue on.
Matters. Oh my gosh.
But history is important in what?
In everything, right? History repeats itself, but I think it holds to your point that history matters because you're saying we've seen these
you don't want to repeat
violence events.
Yeah,
and we don't
want to repeat negative history.
Right,
so we agree.
right,
That's the reason for crime statistics. So if we look at those statistics and we look at the polls and we see an overwhelming number of those on the left, at a ratio of 6 to 1 support violence compared to those on the right, and we see people being murdered in cold blood. If you are conservative, right-leaning in this country and a public speaker, you are more at risk.
Mm-hmm.
How is that pointing the finger? It's identifying the problem and not repeating history, no?
Yes. Well, with data, sure. And data speaks differently than I think sometimes people do.
Sure.
And so I think how data is presented matters a lot.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I really have on that particular thought. Were you wanting?
Well, I think actually, going to that point, the data that's presented, for example, right now in the wake of the assassination, and by the way, not just that, we haven't gone more than 3 days with a serious liberal attack, but a serious leftist attack, meaning in the ideology of the left. You have it right here, ICE, that happened, ICE facility. Yet another one in...
thank you for reminding me of the ICE. There's the ICE attack as well. Where was that at? Let me double check real quick. I want to say New Mexico, but I know it's probably not. It's just in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, that's what it was. And this is recent too. Yeah, Dallas, Texas.
Is it Alvarado or Alvarado? I don't know the right way to pronounce it. People were shot there. There was a bomb threat.
Yep.
The ABC affiliate. Okay, all right. It's like Houston, and then in New York they go Houston. I'm like, I don't know the rules. So forgive me. And then I have French-Canadian mom, so I mispronounce things because she taught me English.
Nice.
And then we look at the ABC affiliate, Jimmy Kimmel. We haven't gone more than 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's an acceleration right now. And the problem is, amidst that, the left is saying, actually, there's more political violence coming from the right. And that's the rhetoric we've been hearing, and it's dishonest. In other words, data is being presented to the public deliberately, dishonestly, to victim blame. And that's something that we face too, where if you back people into a corner who are avoiding conflict, who are not violent, there could end up being right-wing violence. And when that happens, it's very ugly, it's very effective, it's very swift. And the only way we avoid that is for the left to take accountability of it and for them to tone down the temperature. And by that, I mean, right now, and this is where I show you, I think we both agree on this. So the two sources.
Yes, the left needs to take accountability and stop making fake, like, newsworthy, viral fake clips, because by doing that, you're making the right look bad and also influencing people to have a wrong ideology and make people think like activists like Charlie Kirk that make them think that he's evil. People like him are evil when in actuality he's the more peaceful, like, fair, open-minded to debate and conversate with him type of person. The other people are just like a lot more strict and don't even want to talk to people on the left because of how toxic they are. And I think that's very important that the left needs to stop trying to like make everyone, oh, you're MAGA, you're Nazi, you're a fascist, you're misogynist, whatever the case, whatever thing they want to throw at us. It's important to bring a fair ground and just like not say things out of context, because when you do that, it creates an image of you that is not correct by people on the right, by people on the left make people on the right seem something that they're not. People, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that still to this day who haven't watched a single Charlie Kirk video, but they just see the clips online of his out of context clips and think that he deserved it. Think that it was justified, that he was probably fascist, racist, when they don't even know the full context of it. And that's sad. And people like that are going to continue to aspire more potential shooters are gonna try to attack people who are in the conservative movement. It's not right.
In the data, I don't care if you see my password,
Yeah.
are the prosecution project, that's what's cited in The Economist and NPR,
Okay.
and Cato. These are the ones that where they say, hey, right-wing violence is more prevalent. I'm sure you've heard that. Let me show you what they don't include.
Let me go back. Is that the same
Where they
one?
say, hey, right-wing violence is more prevalent. I'm sure you've heard that. Let me show you what they don't include in the data, because like you said, people speak
it's the
differently than data. Remember this in Portland?
When was this?
Summer of Love, George Floyd riots. Aaron Danielson, shot point blank dead because he was a Trump voter. And the man, Reinhold, it was Michael Reinhold who shot him, told the cops, I got the Trump supporter, dead. We agree that's political violence?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Not a single one of these places cites it. It doesn't exist in their database.
Wow. That's
The ones
insane.
here in your black folder, but not here in this.
No, in there. You have all the sources.
So these ones doesn't.
It's the
these
same thing.
ones
The
don't
black folder is
cite
just those.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The point is they come from two places. TPP, the prosecution project, or a Cato study, which is reflected by the CSIS as well, where Cato tried to say there's 6 times the amount of domestic terrorism deaths. TPP said right-wing general violence. By the way, all of them agree that in the last year, since Donald Trump has been elected, even now they agree 2 to 3 times more leftist violence than right-wing violence. But that was never included. In other words, when they say there's more right-wing political violence, that's not included as left-wing political violence. You know what else isn't? All the riots, the billions in damages, the 37 dead from the George Floyd riots, the thousands of officers assaulted, the thousands of casualties, that's not included. You know what else is included? Darrell Brooks in Waukesha, Wisconsin, who ran people over in the parade out of an exclusive defund the police, Black Lives Matter, anti-white, black supremacist ideology. That's why he killed them. That's not included. I could go through example after example that where you would just as clearly agree that is political violence. I'm not trying to pick a gray one. It exists nowhere. So why do you think that wouldn't be included in the data as left-wing political violence? Because that's the number cited by the left right now to justify it.
I think we have so much data that it's hard to even, especially in the today's, well, I don't know, that's weird because you're saying in the police recorded call, they said
He
on
spoke
the
to the police
call,
before they shot him.
so it's on a 911 call. That
So this is on
the Trumper.
Yeah, he was talking to the police. So
This
there's
is police cam video. Or,
this is security camera video, and then I believe there's also police camera video and sworn testimony from the police. But he identified as 100% Antifa.
yeah.
You can look at his social media. He went out there. There are even, I believe, interviews with this man before this was committed where he was talking about enacting political violence.
Yeah.
Did it, clear as day. Are you a Trump supporter? Yes, we've got a Trump supporter. Bang, bang, dead. All the studies from left-wing sources don't include that. Is that bothersome?
Yeah, I do think it is bothersome because we need to have the facts of the situations, any situation, regardless of where it comes from. And, you know, you talked about something you said earlier just reminded me of like the media is not portraying things accurately. And
Right.
that's adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
It's adding so much fuel to the fire.
On that, we agree. And can I ask you, and this is, by the way, there's no wrong answer. This is just an opinion. Why do you think that wasn't included? Why do you think the examples that I gave you, none of them were included? But any example of white on black violence, even if it was a Democrat voter, was listed as right wing. Any attack on a government building, even if it was Antifa, was listed as right wing. Why do you think something that clear
Was not included.
She don't know, bro.
would it surprise you if the authoritative source that's being cited, the prosecution project, the author of it, was actually arrested himself on January 20th protesting Donald Trump, committing crimes, and that entire day was also omitted?
Probably
A
not.
member of Antifa who said we are an organized group and we confront fascists. That's the source that gets disseminated across.
That's crazy.
It seems that there might be a bias there. And these sources are being used to victim blame those on the right now. Where do you think those on the right go? Where we go, hold on a second, we're actually sitting down and having conversations and we've been attacked and in some cases killed.
Right.
And then you came to the memorials and the vigils and you celebrated it. A majority of people on the left, not all, not yourself, but too many celebrated it.
I don't celebrate death
No,
in that way.
but many did, and we both know that we saw
I
it.
know you're right, and
And then you came and blamed us and said we need to tone it down and told us that we're more violent with clearly dishonest stats.
Yeah.
That's why I say the both sidesing it doesn't help. because you're backing people into a corner, not you, the left, with lies. At a certain point, they're going to push back. And I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah. So what do you think the answer is then?
I'll tell you what I think the answer is twofold. One, the leadership of the left and the majority of the left. I think that the majority of people who identify as liberal, the reason you get those numbers 62 to 65, depending on the day, whether it's Rutgers or whether it's YouGov, I think they support political violence to varying degrees because they actually believe that those on the right are fascist, are Nazis, are genocidists, are racist, are homophobic, are sexist, because every single member of the Democratic leadership has said so. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Walz, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, every single one has made that comparison. I think it's incumbent upon the left to take accountability, say, look, we have gone too far here. This needs to be toned down. Of course, Donald Trump and his voters are not fascists who won't relinquish power because he can't deal with fascists at a ballot box. And then I think we also states need to take this upon them, need to change their soft on crime policy, the no cash bail, the IOU policy, where you can simply say, I'll be back in court. Before Charlie Kirk, right, the story in the news was Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed on that subway in North Carolina by a black man, Carlos Brown Jr.
Yep.
He was let out 14 times.
Yep.
And the last time he was let out by a left judge in the name of social justice, he was deemed unfit to stand trial, but they let him go back out into society.
Yep.
Because he said he'd be back. Said he killed an innocent woman. You know why? Because, hey, justice is racist. I don't know when it becomes racist, if it's at arrest number 11 or 14 or 6. But that needs to change. Those two things, accountability, change in rhetoric, ownership from the left, which will change the makeup of today's left, make us safer, and needs to change soft on crime policy. And I also advocate that conservatives take an approach of ruthless, lawful self-defense, because we've afforded grace where it is not warranted. What I mean by that is people who attack me and my family, and many of my production members who've been attacked, violently assaulted, have taken the high road for a very long time, and that's why these people feel so bold to come to our memorials and still commit attacks. They need to know they can't do that. I want the left to be able to get up and have these conversations with no security, as they often do. And I don't want anyone on the right to go and violently disrupt it. The left needs to be afraid to come into our groups and commit acts of violence because we watched entire cities burn down. We watched our own die, and then we watched it celebrated. And unless the left does this and takes this approach, it's going to get worse. There's no off-ramp. That's a genuine concern of mine. People are concerned about radicalizing, right? They talk about radicalization with echo chambers online. And there's nothing more radicalizing than an assassination and a party afterwards.
Yes, no, I agree with you.
That's why I'm sitting down doing this. And to let people know that we're not afraid to have these conversations. Now, of course, we have bulletproof glass and a flak jacket, and it's sad that it's here.
Right.
But it's necessary. That's what I think.
Okay.
Would you disagree with any of those approaches? Changing the rhetoric, taking accountability, and stopping the soft on crime revolving door criminality policy?
This is hard, Stephen, because I just feel like we don't have enough time to even really dive deep into each one.
Well, those
of
are two proposals.
Issues. I know, but I just need more time to process and really consider and to understand what you mean exactly with.
He clearly explained what he meant. Like, this is the type of woman that, like, there's a lot of people like this that just feel like it's not just that simple. It's like she wants everyone to be accountable, but like accountability should only go to those who are doing the most to damage their reputation and their cause. Just, it's so simple. Like, just acknowledge that, like, the left needs to change. That's it. Like, they need to, like, stop being so biased. They need to stop doing things that are dangerous to society, throwing these ideologies. Look at Netflix today or yesterday. There's a show that it's gonna, be for 7-year-olds about trans identity or something like that. And I'm like, the stock market for Netflix went so down, and shout out to Elon Musk for finding out about that. And it's like the left is just so weird, such a weird. No offense, people who are on the left, because I grew up with someone who was, I guess, liberal, because that's how they taught us to be in high school, and always knew something was wrong.
Each thing, because I don't want to.
No cashless bail.
No cashless bail.
Yeah, so you have to post bail.
With that.
Okay, you have to post bail.
Post bail.
You commit a violent crime, you have to post bail. You're in jail. You're not allowed out.
Okay, so no cashless bail, meaning you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to get out without paying any bail.
Without paying any bail, and like
3-strike policy as well.
3-strike policy.
3 serious felonies, violent crimes.
Wait, hold on, bail though.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you can't make bail, you can't get out.
Yep. You have to wait for your trial.
No matter what the level of the crime is.
No, if it's a serious felony.
Only if it's a serious felony.
Let's even start with violent crimes.
Like
felonies, violent crimes,
something like that.
Assault, armed robbery.
Okay.
Burglary. Battery.
I think I could probably get behind that.
Okay.
I could probably get behind that.
Not a single leader in the Democratic Party is. Why?
Yeah.
So we could get behind that. No IOU policy for these criminals. You're deemed meant. Let's use DeCarlos Brown Jr. as a very clear example. We could use George Floyd as an example too. He was arrested 6 or 9 times.
Actually, I'm so
okay. That's fine.
I have to go to court.
Okay. Well, please peruse those sources. Yeah. Your name is Christina. Let me get your last name so if I want to go see your material.
Yeah. Well, I perform under a stage name, and I wouldn't say it anyways.
Could you write it down for me if I don't show it to anybody?
I will write it down for you, but you won't be able to find me on. I'm not like a big okay. I just started a year or so ago.
Well, I was going to follow up. Maybe if I see it, send you some notes of encouragement because I could have used that when I was starting.
Okay.
If you write it down, I promise you no one will see it.
Okay. But I don't know how you're going to send me anything.
Well, just no vibes, I think is the term that's used now. I'll be watching. Know that I'll be out there going like, hey, go get him. But
well, this is my stage name.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Thank you, Christina.
Yes. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Good luck with this.
You too. God bless.
And I am, I just want to say, if it's really inappropriate, if anyone from the left or the moderate is right, we shouldn't be celebrating death. We need to be working together and being united in these things. Together we stand, divided we fall.
I agree with most of that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Yeah,
be well. God bless.
All right, I think she's just someone that's just not educated on most things. Most women aren't. Most women don't really care about politics like that. They just care about, who's gonna pay for my Chanel bag and where are we gonna go, babe? We're going to Aruba next week. What are we doing tonight? Give me attention. That's all they care about. That they don't really care about politics like that, unless it comes with anything to do with abortion. Sorry.
Well, that was surprisingly productive. And I say surprisingly, not in the context of change my mind, but in the context of what we see in today's social media highlight reels. I hope that we can keep this up. Let's move on to our next conversation with Madison, like the town.
Allow me to assert the premise today, which is that today, especially in 2025, I am presupposing that predominantly the political violence right now is coming from the left, setting a tenor and tone where everything you see here today is necessary. And if you disagree with that, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
Yeah.
All right. So which part of that, the left is predominantly responsible for the tone of political violence today, do you disagree with?
Well, I have to think that we first have to consider how many people are on the left and what is the true ideology and mythos behind this new occurrence of violence that we see with the left.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, there's potential skews of media. I don't doubt that crime is not happening, but how many people are truly committing crime out of the sake of leftism or out of the sake of radicalism? Or could it be plastered on there just to get this ball rolling about narrative? The only other question that I had a personal question about you is, and it's a tough one.
Well, is it related to the topic?
It is.
Okay.
Would Jesus be on the left or the right?
Well, that's a conversation for another day. We talk about that in church quite a bit.
Would Jesus be on the left or the right? Jesus would be on the right, of course. What are you talking about? That's a dumb question. Jesus, because here's the thing, though. Just because you're on the right does not mean you are opposed and just like homophobic and things like of that nature. Like, if anything, people on the left are even more racist and more like discriminatory and like just more um a side of separation. Um like because the thing is like even though conservatism, not everyone's Christian, conservatism is based off of tradition, and tradition is the way it is and has succeeded for many many years for a reason, because it's based off of biblical, and things that are good and evil, you know, is based off of God's principles. You know, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, all these things. So I think Jesus would be on the right personally. Um, but at the same time, there's certain things on the right that I think that Jesus would not approve of, because I think that the whole, because the right is more of the side of like capitalism and things of that nature, and you know the Bible talks about how greed is you know, the root of all evil, money. Um, so again, not everything, but like, if we're, but again, if we're all about looking at things of like generalities between the right ideologies and the left ideologies, Jesus would definitely be on the right. I would, I would say like 95% of the way.
I don't necessarily know that he would fit within the current American left-right paradigm. But I will tell you one thing. Jesus would certainly be against political violence as a form of intimidation or coercion.
Agreed.
It seems to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not disagreeing with the idea, the uptick that there is an increase in political violence from the quote-unquote left. You're just not sure if you define them as left?
Partially, yeah. I just don't necessarily want to just assign political violence or terrorism directly to the left, because we see political violence across the world in forms of autocratic or conservative ideologies. So maybe China is a really good example. Arguably Russia,
of leftist violence?
Of leftist violence, especially. Or, well, no, autocratic and conservative violence.
China would be conservative?
I would believe so, because they're an autocracy. So they have to practice conservative ideologies to obtain, they can't liberate their people. That's what the left is. That's what liberation is.
Well, I don't know how familiar you are with the CCP, but they're communist. And they did so under the guise of liberating people. And then, of course, you don't actually have any democratically held elections again. So they are communist. They've done so to liberate people, namely from the decadence, the quote-unquote shackles of the Western world.
Does that have a toothpick?
A little bit, I guess, flummoxed as to how you would define communist China, the Communist Chinese Party, as right-wing.
Well, because when Marx wrote his communist ideologies, it was conservative based. He didn't enjoy other people, races. He wanted to eliminate races.
What does it have to do with conservatism?
It has to do with human rights, because conservatism isn't looking to liberate people from or define human rights. It's looking.
How? Conservatisms don't like to define human rights. But the left is willing to abort kids. It's like, oh, the me, but it's not really a child. A human isn't a human until birth. Like, what? The right just acknowledges the truth. Y'all, human rights. That's the thing about human. I don't understand human rights. Like, what that entails. Like, we have the right to, you know, like the right. I feel like gives you more rights than anything, and women have more rights than anything. You could abort kids. You have the right to carry. You have the right to freedom of speech, and you know, all these things. So, the right to vote. You know, to vote if you want to, if you're an American. Yeah, I don't understand that.
To remove human rights, conserving the beliefs of the state and conserving the beliefs of elitism.
Okay, so what if your premise is flawed? So what if conservatism, and I understand, by the way, I agree with you, it means different things across. For example, conservative in the UK. In Canada, you're basically a liberal or a liberal separatist. There's no real conservative party.
Correct.
But in the United States, it's not about conserving the state. As a matter of fact, our Constitution is very unique in that it said the state doesn't grant any rights. So it's preserving the Constitution where you are granted unalienable rights, meaning birthrights by God. And the state only serves to recognize those rights and protect them. And so if the state ever infringes upon the rights that are naturally yours by birthright.
But who assigned natural rights?
Well, again, the founding fathers who would be conservative. But natural rights being
Republican?
Well, this was before the Republican Party.
Am I correct?
This is the
Right.
Republican Party.
Yeah.
But I'm just confused. So you would say that communist China, conservative.
I would say it's autocracy that uses conservative.
Okay. But how is that conservative? For example, you say doing away with races. How is that conservative?
It conserves their power over the state or over the nation.
So you believe that conservatives want the state to have more power?
I think that we define conservative beliefs by our Republican values. But conservatism across the globe looks very different.
Okay. Well, I agree that different parties, because there's also the Conservative Party, for example, whereas here it's the Republican Party. We're talking about conservatism in the United States. It seems to me that your presupposition is that conservatives, Republicans want more state control, want more government power, as opposed to the Democrat Party, liberals. Okay. That would apply over healthcare, what you can eat, what you can drive, taxes. They're more left, they're more liberal, more open-minded on the left with those policies. Okay, I would just disagree with that, considering if you just look at marginal tax rates and you look at gun policy, you look at speech policy,
Yep. Just
you
said
look
that.
at energy policy, what you can drive. But going back to political violence, you said you wouldn't want to ascribe the uptick that we both recognize, political violence to the left. What would be required for it to be ascribed to the left? What if they said it was? Like, what if
Because
someone's...
I would say, like, I'm looking at this globally.
Well, let's talk about here in the United
In the
States, because that's what we're
United
discussing.
States.
Yeah. Like, what I'm asking you is, what would be required if someone were to commit an act of political violence and you consider it on the left? What if they said it's because they're on the left? Would that count?
I wouldn't say so, no.
No.
I think if somebody is doing an act in towards the left, what side of the left and why? Because what we refer to as the left is now a religion and ideology.
I would agree with
This
that.
is a secular movement.
Secular humanism,
And,
yeah.
well, you can really say demonic too, because like a lot of those people are nuts.
Facts.
And to try to return back to their liberalist state, because in some ways, liberalists believe that they've been robbed of human rights. It's a radicalism of people. That,
Right.
honestly, if the conservatives, like maybe 20 years ago, started assigning themselves the idea of human rights or like, public policy and things like that, there would probably have been a switch around for the conservative movement to be more actually the radical people.
Do you mean like the Civil Rights Act or like
Civil Rights
Emancipation Proclamation,
Act,
freedom of speech policy, Section 230, Second Amendment? Do you mean those kinds of rights?
those kinds of rights, but
If the right had been spearheading those?
and probably a little bit more socialist ideas. But of course,
Well, it's not just change the definitions, right? What you can't do, or I would disagree with doing, is saying racist means conservative, because it doesn't, right? Most slaveholders would be Democrat, and I know we would talk about how the parties have switched.
Yes, because people forget that there was the Republicans, because I believe Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, that ended slavery. The Democrats never ended slavery, so just keep that in mind as well.
You can't say KKK equal, those would be largely Democrats. There's nothing conservative about racism. There's
but
nothing.
again, I think that we're
So that's-
assigning
or saying that-
Republican parties
Yeah.
and Democratic parties when conservative.
That's what we're doing. We're discussing it here in the States.
Assignment of Republican, because if you want to argue that Republicans were liberating people, wouldn't that constitute as a left nowadays?
Why would that be left?
Because they're liberating people from slavery.
Sorry. I thought Bush was a Democrat because isn't that how Dick Cheney was able to? Because Cheney was, I think, Republican, but he went over to the left to um, endorse or be the VP for Bush, even though Dick Cheney was really the president, handling all the business. It does account for leftist values, and I'll tell you why. And Myra Gaines made a good point about this yesterday on his channel. The left are the party that are more likely to condone or conduct an acts of riots, protesting. Because the right, they don't really protest. They're more, they don't, I don't, I've been to one protest. It was for Black Lives Matter. I kind of regret doing it, but the right would rather just do things than just protest and to the streets, and that's great. But the fact is this though: Black Lives Matter was created off of a system of racial injustices, or you know, that was the whole point. People thought that the whole point of Black Lives Matter was not for equality for Black people. The whole point of Black Lives Matter was to acknowledge the um, racial injustices and racial discrimination against Blacks by police officers, by police officers violently killing Black people because of the color of their skin. And that ideology is based off the left. They are all about the party of equality, diversity, um, racism, things of that nature. But Martin Luther King, I believe he was definitely a Democrat, if he would be, but I could be wrong. I heard he was a communist, so again, that kind of leans with left-leaning values. But the whole concept of Black Lives Matter, all these things, it all comes down to like what they want to do in the long run is just commit acts of violence because their ideology is based solely off of like those things of playing victim. The right is more on the side of everything's merit. You earn your way. The American dream is something you can achieve, no matter what race, background, everything you can achieve, you could do it. And we've seen people like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's a billionaire, Indian, immigrant parents, went to Harvard, and started his company from the ground up, right? Uh, and you could, there's a lot of YouTubers that came from nothing. A lot of people who came from nothing, and most of them lean more with the right wing. And people on the left are more of the side of, I am a victim. Life is harder because I am this skin color. Racial injustices, no matter what happens, even if I work hard, compared to a white person, I have to work 10 times harder because I am Black, because I am brown, because I'm Pakistani, Indian, whatever. And those things lead to things like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, um, and I'm always someone that was a bit against Black Lives Matter because Black Lives Matter kind of always exposed them. Their whole place is corrupt, and we saw them driving fancy cars, using that money on